Hello everyone, and this is my review for WWE Elimination Chamber 2017. Now, if you already have seen any of it, I had done live reactions the night before. I decided not to go to the actual show. I did live reactions here on the channel to go along with everything though. But the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view itself, I'll go off and say it is a bit of a mixed bag of everything that a little bit of a mixed bag of just everything. The beginning of the show was kind of meh, but it picked up in the middle and more towards the end of the show. So we'll go through all the matches. First off, Mojo Rawley and Kurt Hawkins. Not a bad match, rather short, but also a match that, it's more of a showcase for Mojo Rawley, which he did do. I think in certain spots he looked good, but in certain spots he didn't. I did not particularly like his shoulder tackles because he didn't look like he was following through with anything at that point. But overall, not a bad match, but nothing special. It was what it was. They started off the main show, with Becky Lynch going up against Mickie James. I thought this was a good choice. When I was watching the show live, I thought that was a good choice. Crowd does get into Becky Lynch, is firmly behind Becky Lynch and everything in that sense. So I thought that was a good way of going. As for the match itself, not a bad match, but I feel like those two could have had a far better showing than what they did. I did like the aspect of them telling the story of Mickie James going after Becky Lynch's arm, which is kind of like a role reversal of what Becky Lynch would typically do inside of one of her matches. And Becky Lynch going over in the end was fine on that aspect, but you kind of expected that maybe they would give Mickie James a little bit of a rub, considering she hasn't had a win since she's come back to the company in any way. Even down at NXT Toronto, she didn't win there, and she hasn't won in any of the tag matches. And this was her first one-on-one match back on the main roster, so it was really the first pin on the main roster that she had taken. But I kind of expected them to want to put over Mickie James, but they decided to go with Becky Lynch in that sense, which I guess I mean in the end is not a bad thing by any stretch of the imagination. I think that's fine in itself. It's just one of those bits that is like, yeah, you kind of expected it to go the other way. Up next was that handicap match. I'm not gonna lie on this one. They did a good job of making it feel like the faces had to come back in some way in this match, because this was one of those areas where they kind of had bad booking going into it, because you have two faces going up against one heel. Usually it's the other way around. The heels go up against the baby faces. You're supposed to feel sorry for the baby face in that sense, but they had two baby faces going up against one heel. So Apollo Crews comes out for the match, and then Kalisto was coming out. They had separate entrances, and Dolph Ziggler just wrecks Kalisto's day, throwing him into the LED board down there on the rampway. So taking him out for a while, but eventually seeing Kalisto come back, which he sells the crap out of, having to get back to the ring after being taken out by Dolph Ziggler. But once he gets tagged in by Apollo Crews, he kind of almost forgets everything and just starts flipping around like it's nothing in that sense. And they do eventually go over the solo heel, and Dolph Ziggler eats the pin, and then of course immediately does what he has always been doing, which is start beating him down after the match using chairs and using everything in that sense. And of course, would this get Dolph Ziggler boos? No, this wouldn't get Dolph Ziggler boos. This gets "Thank You Dolph" chants from the crowd as they cheer on him taking out the baby faces, with Kalisto getting dragged getting thrown out of the ring, or getting thrown off the apron really hard on that sense, and then doing the chair stop spot with the chair wrapped around Apollo Crews' ankle. So they're playing a potential injury angle to go along with it. But of course, like I said, they're the two baby faces. No. Dolph gets cheered for this one. He gets "Thank You Dolph" chants. It was it was kind of bad. It was kind of bad in that one. Up next was the tag team turmoil match with Breezango. Breezango, Heath Slater and Rhino. We're out there. Oh, nah. I am stumbling over my words here for a little bit. I'm still probably feeling it a little bit after last night's live reaction show. But you had Heath Slater and Rhino start off. They went up against Breezango. They took care of Breezango in relatively short order, and that's what you kind of expect in these matches. At least they didn't go on a full-on rapid-fire elimination style, like you had seen in some other tag team turmoil matches, where it's like, 30 seconds in and they're done or something in that sense. You didn't get anything like that throughout this match, but you got about 3 to 5 minute matches in certain areas. So after Breezango, it was the Vaughn Villains that came out to face Heath Slater and Rhino. Heath Slater and Rhino took care of them in what was an okay match, and the aspect of Slater using the Impaler DDT to get one of the victories was kind of nice as well. Though we have it down in NXT with Bobby Roode as to go along with it. You had the Usos come out next. They dispatch of Slater and Rhino. And again, what was kind of short fair match. And this is where you had the American Alpha come out, and I thought this was a good spot for American Alpha to come out. If anything, I would have done it one sooner, because it makes them have to go through multiple teams and try to build them up as a more dominant force in some way. So you have them come out before the final team. And they take care of the Usos in a relatively short match. We still haven't gotten a full match with those guys, really. At least I don't feel like we've gotten a full match with the Usos and American Alpha. And I feel like those two teams can put on a really good match with each other. After the Usos lose, they basically demolish American Alpha, and to the point that, the beatdown that they had was a fairly long one. It was like a couple minute beatdown of American Alpha. They take them out, which brings out the Ascension. You knew the Ascension were going to win. They did give them the win on Tuesday to kind of give them at least that semblance of everything, and also the aspect of and I do think it was good booking to have American Alpha beaten down going into that final match, just to make them come off as a little bit more impactful when they beat the Ascension, because not too many people were going to think that the Ascension could beat them anyway in a straight up one-on-one, straight up tag team match. So I like the booking of having American Alpha down and out, or maybe not fully out, but down before going into that match, and I thought it came off rather well. The match as a whole, I'm not the biggest fan of the tag team turmoil match. This one was alright though. And like I said, I like the aspect that you didn't have the full-on rapid-fire eliminations. There was at least a little bit of substance to each match. It wasn't, 30 seconds and next team's coming. What? Huh? Okay. No, you got usually around 3 to 5 minute matches in every sense of the word. So I thought it was an alright match. It wasn't anything special though. Up next was Nikki Bella going up against Natalya, and you know what? I'm not a fan of double countouts, but this match was good. This match was a good match. And I'm not laughing because I thought it was going to be a bad match by any stretch of the imagination, but we'll leave it here that Nikki Bella is a lot better in the ring than what most people think, or most people probably give credit for, and that's probably on the aspect of, she, because, on the aspect that maybe her character's not necessarily all that good, or that most people don't think she can act all that well to go along with it. But her in-ring has definitely gotten a lot better, and you could definitely tell that this was, these two put on a really good match. And trust me, towards the end of the show, you saw a bunch of pretty good matches to go along with everything, and these two put on a good match last night. The aspect of the double countout doesn't always sit well, but I do like the aspect that they continued fighting after the match, to the point it's like Natalya was leaving, but Nikki Bella just runs up the rampway and spears her. to finish off everything. So not a fan of the double count out. They're going to obviously keep this feud going, and they do something a little bit later on with Nikki Bella about to be interviewed. She gets attacked by Natalya, so you kind of expect them to continue on with this feud at least for a little bit longer. And they do subtly start the feud with Nikki Bella and Maurice, because Maurice was backstage at the I think at the makeup counter, or she was somewhere. I think it was like the makeup area, and Nikki Bella gets thrown into Maurice and and knocks powder into Maurice and everything in that sense. So they subtly start the feud with Nikki Bella and Maurice. More likely he's going to add John Cena and The Miz to go along with it. We'll talk about that one a little bit later, though. So obviously that's going to continue on with Nikki Bella and Natalya for a little bit, but there are also beginnings this of Maurice and Nikki Bella. Up next was Luke Harper going up against Randy Orton, and yep, there you go. Luke Harper, I think you fully won everybody over tonight with that match with Randy Orton. That was a really good match. I've known Luke. It's like I've seen Luke Harper put on good matches before, but this was by far one of his better ones with him and Randy Orton tonight. And there's nothing really bad that I could say about that particular match. It came off really well between the two of them, and it showed off of what Luke Harper can do. And Luke Harper, for a big man, does do moves that most big men cannot do. One, doing the dive outside of the ring. That's something you don't always see from a man his size. You see him from the non-cruiserweights and everything in that sense, but not somebody of his size. Like Dean Ambrose does that suicide dive, but Luke Harper's a much taller, much bigger guy than what Dean Ambrose is as well. And Luke Harper looked really good, even with the aspect of Randy Orton going over in the match, which is what I kind of expected to go along with it. But I have no complaints on this match. They did a really good job. So this brings us to the SmackDown Women's title match, which was next with Naomi and Alexa Bliss. This was a good match to certain degrees. I felt like it was a little sloppy in areas, and everything in that, and everything on that sense. But especially the ending, I didn't like the ending itself. It just looked like they were trying to get to their spots and where they needed to be, but like they were just a little bit off. Like when Naomi goes for the springboard moonsault for the first time, it looks like it actually connects, but Alexa Bliss sells it and immediately goes for the twisted bliss, which gets countered, and then Naomi hits the split-legged moonsault. Not the best looking one, but to pick up the victory. But otherwise, I thought it was a pretty good match, and the crowd did definitely react well to it as well. Like at the beginning of the match, it felt like the crowd died off of it after the match with Nikki Bella and Natalya, and then following up with Randy Orton and Luke Harper. It looked like they died off a little bit, but they picked up towards the end of the match, and they did give Naomi a pretty good pop for winning the women's title to go along with it. When Naomi also got an interview as well, the crowd was firmly behind Naomi on this one. So all in all, not a bad match, and like I said, the crowd got into it towards the end of that match and afterwards with the actual interview afterwards to go along with it. So this brings us to the Elimination Chamber match itself. And first of all, they did have a new look for it. And the one aspect I feel like they had said before, there was a lot of arena, like the reason for a new look Elimination Chamber was the aspect of how other arenas receive, or necessarily like there weren't many arenas that actually could fit the old chamber. It looked menacing and everything in that sense, but apparently, I guess because of its shape and maybe its weight to go along with it, it was a lot harder for arena structures to actually support the old chamber. So they changed up the chamber look. It has a more square or rectangular-esque look. It's also taller than it used to be. They have new lighting to it, and they had new aspects to the pods. The aspects behind the pods are the old ones were kind of oval or like half circles. Now they're rectangles, and there's doors on either side of the pods now. So you have the aspect of, oh, you don't have there's not only one way that someone can exit. You can exit out of multiple ways. Also, the door, they can prevent that botch from happening now, because it's not a door that shuts, or like your typical door that shuts forward. It's a sliding door, so you can actually use that portion of the chamber now without having to worry about a botch spot where the door accidentally opens or something in that sense. So that's one nice little touch to it. The flooring, it looks like the steel grates are there, but they put mats over them, or it might just be a hardened floor now. I don't know exactly what it is with a mat over it, because they showed a little clip of it, or I think it was by accident that they showed it. But like when Becky Lynch was doing their entrance, they had a spot that got a look right underneath the Elimination Chamber. It looks like there's plywood underneath it, so it might be a hardened floor with a mat now, but they do have like the steel gratings for the pods and everything in that sense to go along with it too. So that's basically the new look of everything. Oh yeah, and the aspect of the roof being higher and everything like that. There's more room on top of the pods, so guess what? Spots that are used up there, there's more room for the superstars to actually do something with it, and they don't have to necessarily duck to do a move off of the top of the pods, which you did get a couple of those spots in this particular match. Now, as for the match itself, starting off with John Cena and AJ Styles, I thought was a great way of doing it, and they definitely they said typical random intervals, but I felt like the first two entrants came out really, really quickly, so I started timing the aspect from when like when they would be let out of the pod to the next entrant, and the first time around was like it was actually like 5 minutes. The second time around was like only 4. So it was only 4 minutes. So they don't do the whole 5-minute interval thing. They kind of do it like the Royal Rumble, when they kind of get through their typical, like their spots going into it, the next person comes out to go along with everything. But overall, this was a great chamber match. I am not gonna lie to you in any way, shape, or form. At the way that the match was going the entire time, like, it wouldn't have mattered who ended up winning. These guys put on a terrific show the entire night. Like I said, they start off the match with AJ Styles going up against Cena, so that's always a really good way of going. Those two, they work together really well. But after that, the chambers that got opened up was next Dean Ambrose, and then Bray Wyatt came out after that, and then it was Baron Corbin, and then Miz, who each kind of came in respectively. Baron Corbin looked really good in this match. During his time in there, he gets eliminated as the Miz was as he was taunting the Miz to come out. He gets rolled up by Dean Ambrose. I like the aspect that Dean Ambrose pins Baron Corbin in kind of a fluke manner, where Baron Corbin looked very dominant, hitting end of days to pretty much everybody. Yeah, everybody. He hit the end of days to pretty much everybody in the ring, with the exception, I think, of Bray Wyatt, and but ends up getting pinned in the end by Dean Ambrose. But the aspect of Baron Corbin beating down Dean Ambrose after the match was a good way of going, and probably going to set up their WrestleMania match with between the two of them. At least that's what it looks like they're going to go for with those two guys. So we'll see where they end up going with that, but it looks like they're setting up a feud there. Up next, Miz kind of goes off on everybody, doing his typical thing, and setting up with doing the Daniel Bryan spots and everything like that, and trying to get the crowd to be annoyed by him. and he eventually eats an AA, and it was literally the only move he took the entire match. Like, he pretty much delivered offense, and it was just the AA that takes out the Miz. So it's kind of weak in that sense, but also potentially adds, if they're going to play off of that, of Miz being eliminated by Cena, that probably adds the whole aspect of Miz and Maurice going up against John Cena and Nikki Bella at WrestleMania to go along with it, so they have something there. So that brings us down, that brings us down to the final three, because Miz, after the Baron Corbin beatdown, eliminates Dean Ambrose. He kind of just he does the whole cowardly dash in, just eliminates Dean Ambrose spot after he had been taken out by Baron Corbin. So it left us to the final three, which was Bray Wyatt, Cena, and AJ Styles. And these three as well put on a really good show. And I have to commend even Cena going to the top of the pod to do a crossbody off of the top onto AJ Styles and Bray Wyatt to go along with it. That's not a spot you would expect Cena to go for, but he went for it in this match. And you also had a pod spot with Dean Ambrose doing his elbow off the top of the pod to take out or to hit Cena with some offense as well. So you had a couple good pod spots to go along with it. What was it? They also did going through the pod with Baron Corbin sending Dean Ambrose through there as part of the beatdown. So you did have a little bit of usage of the outside in the sense of the pods. Obviously, your typical fare with the chain link fencing. You had this one spot with AJ Styles climbing not climbing the pod, but climbing the actual structure itself, but Cena was following him, and eventually Cena falls off onto the new hardened basically the hardened floor for that. And there were so many good spots in this match that like they looked brutal. The new cage itself, like back when they had done the chamber initially, it looked like there was a lot of give to the chain link that they had in there. This one had like zero give. Like you got thrown into it, it did not move. It did not move at all. So this match in general, there's nothing bad I can say about this match. The aspect of the ending of how the ending of the match went with Bray Wyatt giving the Sister Abigail to Cena and getting the pin, of course popped the crown and also gave you the guaranteed new champion, and then Bray Wyatt and AJ Styles going one-on-one for a few more minutes after that, where it looked like Styles was going to try to win the match with a phenomenal forearm, but gets caught in the Sister Abigail to give the win to Bray Wyatt, which I know I marked out while watching it. And it's still one of those things that you're kind of shocked that they went for it. Though the whole aspect with Randy Orton in there is like, okay, they're fully all in with this whole aspect of Randy Orton and Bray Wyatt having a match. And everything in that sense, because you have Orton as the Rumble winner and Wyatt as the WWE champion, which is something that you just would not have expected WWE to finally do in any way. It's been one of those things. It's like they've been kind of wishy-washy on Bray for the longest time, though. He's been good in the ring, he's good on the microphone, he has this character that's massively over with everything, and now they finally put the title on Bray Wyatt. And even if it's only for those 7 weeks and Orton gets the title afterwards, the match was great. I love the aspect of Orton and Wyatt kind of having a little bit of a stare down after the match as well. Not to say that there's tension or anything in that sense already, but implying that there is some tension coming the way within the Wyatt family, or between Wyatt and Orton here in the very near future. So, overall, I'd have to give this show a thumbs up, especially for those last, at least 3 of the last 4 matches. I thought the women's title match was a little bit sloppy, but that chamber match was one of their better chamber matches. I can't say it's the best one because I'd have to I would have to look at some of the old chamber matches again, but it's definitely up there as one of the better chamber matches that WWE has done. And yeah, just overall, it was a rather enjoyable show. The crowd was definitely into the show itself, and like I said, 3 out of those last 4 matches ended up coming off really good, especially with the aspect that that card itself looked rather weak going into it, but it ended up being a rather fun show to watch. So that is my review for WWE Elimination Chamber 2017. I thank you guys for watching, and I hope you have a great day.